I remember when I would see my dad every other weekend. My dad was a brick and block mason, and so my parents are divorced, and so I'd see my dad about every other weekend growing up. And I remember he would drive me around to different construction sites, and he'd drive around through the country. He lived in rural Virginia, and he would drive me around and point out, I built that basement, or I bricked that house, or I rocked that house, or I built that chimney. And I remember growing up, I didn't really get into that stuff. A lot of guys I knew, guys I went to school with, their dads were businessmen, and my dad quit school when he was pretty young, and so I didn't really think a lot of what he did, honestly. And it wasn't until years later I realized the significance of he had invested in his life in building tangible things and tangible results. And one of my favorite verses, you guys know I didn't have the best childhood, a lot of transition, divorces, remarriages, deaths, etc. A verse God gave me a long time ago was Isaiah 58:12. And there's a picture of brokenness on one hand, and then there's a picture of restoration. And in Isaiah 58:12, it says, "Those from among you will rebuild the ancient ruins. You will raise up the age-old foundations, and you will be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of the streets in which to dwell." And as you guys are putting up pipe and drape, as you're hosting online groups, as you're directing cars in the parking lot, preparing curriculum for 3-year-olds, leading worship for kindergartners, teaching college students who it may seem like maybe they're not getting it. You guys, God is using you guys to rebuild the ancient ruins. He is using you to take something that was broken and create something that is beautiful. And though you won't have chimneys and houses and basements to drive around and point to your kids, hey, I helped build that, or I helped rock that. You will be able to drive around, you'll be able to walk around town, you'll be able to think through when you go to bed at night, the people in Florida, in Georgia, in California, who God has used you to rebuild something in their hearts, or to build something in their hearts for the first time through online. You might be able to, as last week, look up there when we're baptizing little girls and say, you know, all this curriculum, all this prep, all these colored pipes, or these play panels, these black pipe and drape, all this stuff that we do every week is God using us to put one little brick in this chimney, or one little cinder block in this foundation. And one day, Lord willing, He's going to use your hands and the hands of others, so that we can drive around, that we can finish up our stint here on earth and say, man, God used me to help build that little girl's life, or God used me to help redirect that boy's path. God used me to introduce them to Him, and now He is influencing other people. So fight well this week. Keep your eyes on Jesus, on what He's doing in you, and know that He will and does and is using you to build something beautiful.